Hey everyone, Lawn Productions here, and today we are in GHPC because I'm going to be doing a full guide on all of the controls in the game. I have made this video before, but that was a really long time ago. The game has changed a ton. I'm going to have the same format as the previous video, but as always, skip around. I'm going to have timestamps so you can skip around to the different sections of controls. Either way, let's stop wasting your time. Let's get right into it. So I'm currently in the Proving Grounds just because this is an easy way to show you the controls. We're going to start off with the very first control is going to be tab. And you can see there's this assets menu. And this is going to be everything you can swap to in the game. Well, not in the game, but in the game that you're playing right now. Like, we are in the Proving Grounds. There's all these vehicles here that I can play as. If I press tab, I can swap to all the different vehicles here. And then I can play as them. If you're in a level, you're going to see this assets menu. And it's basically just going to be your side or whatever you can play as, whatever vehicles or people you can control is going to be seen in this assets menu. Now, there are a few interface controls. The first one is F1. Oh, I have to hold F1. And this is all of your controls. And you might be thinking, well, why are you even doing this video if I can see it right here? Well, they have added the free cam controls, which they didn't used to have, so this video was very purposeful. But now it's just mainly I'm going to be telling you what all these things mean. Like, what the hell does dump lead delta D mean? Well, I'm going to tell you that. It's just also easier to see what everything means and what it's used for in a video format, and all is just this big old list. The next control is controlling the time scale. So if you press plus and you press minus, you can control the time scale going up or down, or like increase or decrease. You can only go up to 1 times. You can't speed it up, unfortunately. You probably break something if you did, but you can press minus 1 at a time and it'll half it, and you can get really slow. If I fire, yeah, you can see there goes the Sabo. Really cool for cinematic shots and getting that perfect angle and whatnot. Or if you just want to see how things work in slow motion, then there you go. You can also press P and that will pause the game. I'm moving my mouse around and pressing W, S, and D. I can't do anything. Let me unpause. That is different than just lowering the time scale. Obviously, if you lower all the way, you can still fire, you can still move around and stuff. But if I press P, it will completely pause everything. Everything will be stationary. And this is especially important just because if I just press escape, you can see the game still is running. So if you need to go take a break or something, make sure you press P before you press escape and not just escape. So I just load into a game. If I press M, you can see here is the map. If I click and drag, I can move around. If I scroll out or scroll down and then scroll up, then I can zoom in and out. You can see there are different markings. So position 1, position 2, expected enemy, expected enemies. This is all just basically trying to tell you the position obviously is positions to go to, expected enemies. That's where you're going to expect enemies. I know that's shocking. But then up here you'll see some other things. There's artillery, illumination, flare, and cast. Now this depends on the mission, what you can use. You can see these are grayed out. This one I can, I put my mouse over and it turns black. That's because I can use it. So if I click here, you'll see this. This is just to cancel it. If I click one of these, in this case artillery, and I click on the map, I'll do position 1. This is going to call artillery on this position. And you can see it's this big old red circle here. And in a little while, we will have artillery pop up, or not pop up, but slam down right in front of us on that position. And, well, it'll just take a little while. This can actually work against enemies. It will actually do damage to them. It can be extreme. Oh, there it is. It'll be extremely temperamental if it actually does damage. I found that it sometimes works against tanks, but for the most part, if there's like a tow missile or something like that, an anti-tank weapon that you just need to make sure is not there, you can use artillery, and I'm sure that will do the job just fine. You can see it's a very widespread attack, and I think that's done. Illumination flare, that's mostly just for the night. I don't know why you'd want to use it for the day, but that you can call down and it'll illuminate the entire area. You'll be able to see without your night vision, which can be extremely helpful. Cast is air support, so again, this depends on what that will be specifically, but it's basically dropping a bomb on a specific point. You're going to have to be a lot more accurate with the cast and the artillery. It, again, can be temperamental if it actually works, but it is there at your disposal. And you can see the artillery. I can use it again and call it again. They all have a little bit of a cool down. Wow, what the hell did I just say? But this arrow, it doesn't face in the direction your tank is facing or the gun is facing. It faces in the direction your view is facing. So if you're looking this way, that's where the arrow is facing. That way, that's the way the arrow is facing. And lastly, J is the briefing. So this is going to be different for every mission, obviously. But this is the same thing that you see before you load into a level in that menu select. If you, in the kind of bottom left section, this is the same thing. It just tells you the situation, the enemy, friendly, contacts, your mission, what you have to do, other things that you might want to know. The end conditions, if I kill 100% of the enemies or destroy 100% of the enemies, then that's when we'll win, but we'll get a defeat if my tank is destroyed. So now into the actual controls of the tank. Now I went out and moved out here just so we've got a little bit more space, but if we hold W, we'll go forwards. Both of the tracks will move forwards, and then we hold S, we'll move backwards. Both of the tracks will move backwards. If we hold A to turn left, you can see that both of the tracks are still moving, but one is moving faster than the other. And then we hold D and the exact opposite happens. We're going to turn right. Still though, the inner track is moving slower than the outer track. This is not, we don't have one track staying in place and basically drifting with the other track moving completely. Both tracks are moving at the same time. And with that, if you hold W, I'm holding W and D right now. It's the exact same thing, it's just holding D. But whenever you turn, even if it's at high speed, if I just hold down A, it will completely slow down my tank and I'll just start turning in place. So you do have to kind of like tap it a little bit if you want to keep on moving forwards, which is a little bit unfortunate. But the next one, cruise control. So this is going to be the numpad plus and minus. As I said earlier, the plus and minus on the keyboard is the time scale. You don't want to mess with that. So if I hold, or if I press plus on my numpad, I press it a few more times. Currently my hands are off the keyboard and I'm still moving forwards. Now I press minus and I'll incrementally go slower. This is not changing the gears. I'm actually not exactly sure the increment size, because the kilometers, if you look in the bottom left, the kilometers an hour, it changes by quite a bit. It seems not consistent between however many, or between the increments. But you can see there are plenty of speeds for you to cruise at. I'm going extremely slow right now. I might just stop. Yeah, just stop. But if I press it once, it's just a nice cruising speed. This is just so you don't have to focus on holding WSD all the time. I really don't ever use it, but it is there. I think this is pretty self-explanatory, but I've been using my mouse the entire time to look around. Pulling my mouse downwards is looking downwards. And you can see there's this kind of limit that it hits, and then I start looking downwards. That's because, well, they don't want you cheating and stuff, so you can't look up too much. Because if I scroll out by scrolling down, it will reach that limit, and I'll soon just be looking downwards instead of looking like above or over something. It just prevents you from cheating. And on the other side, if I go downwards, it just kind of drags along the ground, and then the same thing will happen when I just start looking upwards at towards the sky. If I press C, that will swap between my views. This is how you start the missions. If you scroll just once, just one scroll click inwards, you can go into these. I mean, it looks like a monocular, but it's probably binoculars. And this is just a really easy way to look independently from your tank gun. Obviously, I'm not controlling the gun right now. I can just look around. Now to control the gun, to look around, if I hold right click, you can see this little indicator in the center. There you go. Now you can see it. It's this, I don't even know how to describe that, but that is telling you that you are controlling the gun. So if I just hold it, it will go towards where I'm looking. Left and right, downwards as well. You can see the gun went downwards. If I hold it upwards, you can see gun went upwards. For some reason with the T55A, I don't know why. I've always thought this was a bug, but it's been a while and it still hasn't been fixed. If it was, if you just right click, just like single tap it, you don't have to hold it down. It'll just go to where you right clicked. Again, I don't know if this is a bug or not. I would assume it is, but it hasn't been fixed, so it must be at least somewhat intentional. Don't quote me on that though. Just when in doubt, hold down and right click. Now if I press shift, I will go into the view of the gun. Now, I just tap shift, you don't have to hold it, but in this view, the aim is a little bit different. Instead, you can change this in these settings. If I go to settings and then input, you can see, first of all, show input. I have that toggled off, but I will actually turn that on temporarily. This right here, invert aim control, this is what it's going to change what I'm just about to talk about. If I hold down right click, I'm holding down right click right now, and I move my mouse, just going to move it like a centimeter to the left and leave it there while holding right click. You can see this little arrow has been made, and I'm moving very slowly to the left. Now, I'm not moving my mouse at all right now. I'm just holding down right click. If I let go of right click, it will stop moving. What this is basically doing is you're moving your mouse a little bit to in a certain direction, and it is going to continuously move the gun in that direction. So I don't have to, move my mouse across the entire mouse pad a lot just to go from one side of my view to the other. All you have to do is just move it a little bit, and then it's basically controlling your velocity or the speed of your gun moving around. And this also works for upwards and downwards. It's a little bit weird to get used to, but trust me, if you get used to it, it is actually very helpful. And it's a lot easier to control. Believe it or not, it's a lot easier to control this than it is moving your mouse around directly. Now, if I go back to the settings, I'm going to get rid of this input. But I'm going to invert the palm switch, or invert aim control palm switch. Instead of holding down right click, I'm just going to move my mouse a little bit. I just move it to the side. My hands are off my mouse. Instead is the exact same thing, except you don't have to hold right click in order to move around. I can just move it around and let go of my mouse, and it's just still moving. Instead, what you do is you press right click, and it'll stop moving. I don't like this. In the past, it originally was enabled by default. Just make sure this is disabled. The reason I say it is just because it's really distracting and hard to get used to. This way is a lot easier to get used to, just knowing you are inputting when you're holding right click. And then in this zoomed in mode, if you scroll upwards, you will zoom inwards. Scroll outwards, you will zoom outwards. Now I'm going to swap to the T72M1 for this next section, because fire, it's left click, pretty self-explanatory. But to swap between your weapons, you're going to press left bracket and right bracket. And this specific gun right here, it is also controlled with the controls of the main gun. So if I aim upwards, you can see the 7.62 is also aiming upwards. If I aim downwards, it's also aiming downwards. Some tanks, or some just things in general, have them independently controlled. For example, if I go to the M60 main gun, I'm going to press right bracket. That is this 50 caliber. That is the commander controls. You can control that independently from the turret. You have to hold down right click to move it around. And then you also have the 7.62 in the gun mantlet. To change ammunition, you're going to press 1, 2, 3, or 4. All of these are going to be different types of ammunition. Depends on the tank or the thing that you're using. Some of them don't have more than 2. Some of them have all 4. For example, if I press, or let me make sure I'm on the 125. If I press 1, we're on the APF SDS. Press 2 is going to go to heat. FS 3 is HE, and I don't have a 4th one. Some of them have a 4th one, but all of these are different ammunitions you can use. The thing though is that this is going to be your next round of ammunition. You can see it says next in the bottom left. You're going to have to fire the gun for you to swap to the next round. So just be mindful of that. If you realize you're going to have to shoot something with HE in this example, but then you don't, now you have an HE round loaded, and you're going to not do anything to the next tank that you face. And if we press Q, this is going to open up this menu right here. So it says vehicle. We've got FCS, lights, bailout, and toggle restocking. This is an important one because it took me forever to find out that this thing actually existed. You're going to have your ready rack in the tank that is going to deplete. So what you have to do is press this toggle restocking button. This is going to lock up the turret, so you can't control it. Obviously, you can't fire it either. It's essentially moving ammunition from the hull, or from just around the tank, into the ready rack, or in this case the ammo carousel, because it's an auto loader. I'm going to stop the restocking, and this is a toggle button, so you can toggle on, toggle off. Either way, it has a certain amount of time you need for the next round. It's going to reset if you toggle it again. I would highly suggest you toggle the restocking anytime you're just not doing anything. If you're just driving around a lot, you should toggle restocking just to make sure you have plenty of ammunition. Bailout, it's bailing out. I can't remember off the top of my head why the bailout is important, but it is for one specific game mode. The lights, this is not important unless it's at night, obviously. The gunner spotlight and the convoy lights. Now, the convoy lights, they're barely even visible. They're not really important just because you don't play with other players right now. Q. I don't know why I couldn't press Q there. Convoy lights, you can see a few lights just lit up. It's just small lights kind of dotted around the vehicle just so you can see the tank better. And then gunner's spotlight. Now, if I toggle that, nothing's going to happen because in this specific tank, the gunner's spotlight is going to be for night vision. So we're just going to wait a little while to get into that. Onto the FCS or fire control system. These all have keybinds, so this is kind of redundant, not really needed, but it is there if you need it. Toggle stabilization, you're going to use L to toggle your stabilization. Dump lead is going to be left control and E. Lays is going to be E. And reset range is going to be left control and page down. So toggle stabilization, if I move backwards and forwards, you can see the gun is staying at a certain level, is aiming towards the same point, and it's just kind of, well, stabilized. If I go to the FCS, toggle that, you can see it is now not stabilized. It is essentially fixed to the rest of the tank. And why is that important? Why are you going to want to do that? That is a good question. There's not really much of a point right now for toggling the FCS, but it is, again, it is there if you need it. There are real-world reasons, a bit of a tongue twister, there are real-world reasons why you'd want to toggle the stabilization, but when you're reloading the tank in this game, it's already done for you. If you toggle the restocking, the stabilization is already toggled off. So the dump lead, that is basically actually something that I can better explain later in just a little bit. That is going to be, if I'm leading a target and this tank, it doesn't work, it's going to work in the M1. But if I'm leading a target and I laze it, it's going to create an automatic lead on the target, and I can remove that lead by going to here and then dump lead. It's easier just to use the keybind, so you don't need to do this, but it is there if you need it. For the laze, if you just press E, it will do the exact same thing. So in this tank, if you aim where the red circle, or aim with the red circle, so I'm going to aim at this point, this little target. So the distance between me and it is a certain number, and I've set the range to that. So if I shoot right now, I will perfectly hit that target at that point. Oh, and I'm stopping the HE. I'm doing the exact same thing I mentioned earlier. But the reason that's important is because, oh, you can see now, it changed it way down there because HE has a very steep curve in terms of firing. But here you can actually better see the arc that a round has to take. You can kind of see the tracer went up and then down because it has to range to a certain point. You have to know the range, the distance between you and the target in order to hit the target. If I just aimed, if I set the range to 0, I just held left control and scrolled downwards. You can manually control the range with that by scrolling in left control. If I just set to 0 meters, it's going to aim short. It's completely pointless. So you have to range your target, or in this case, because it's automatic, I press E, go way down there, and now if I left click on it with the crosshair, it'll hit it. Resetting range goes to 0. And again, keybind, just hold left control and scroll, and you can just scroll the way down. It's a lot easier in my opinion. But how did I know the exact number range? Well, it's because of the bottom left information. You can see there's this little list of stuff. There's this diagram to the right, and then there's the kilometers an hour, gear 0 below it. So first is the gun direction. This is the diagram to the right. You can see it's like a little house with a line. The line is where the gun is facing. Like, think of that as the barrel. The house is the hole, or the base of the tank where the tracks are, and the arrow, like the roof of the house, that is the front of the tank. So you can see here the diagram, it matches up. If I go to if I move my camera around, you can see it's now inverted. It's in line with wherever you're looking. You can see I'm turning the hole right now, and I can use that so I don't have to constantly go out and change my view and whatnot. It does not show you the gun elevation. If I look up, I look down, it's going to be the exact same thing. But then onto the paragraph looking thing, we've got 125 millimeter gun 2A46. So this is the gun caliber, 125 millimeters, and the specific name, which is gun 2A46. If I swap with right bracket, now it's 7.62 millimeter. That is the caliber. Machine gun PKT, that is the gun name. So then we have 3BM15 APF SDS-T 1+12. So what this means is, first of all, the 3BM15, that is the specific name of the ammunition. So like if you had to know like the model, I guess, of the ammunition, it'd be called a 3BM15. Then APF SDS-T, the T at the end of basically everything just means tracer. So if I fire right now, you can see that red dot. That is a tracer. That's just so you can see where your round is aiming or where it's going. For a lot of reasons, that's very helpful. In this game, it's not exactly. You don't have to know it. It doesn't have to be there, but it's just, again, it's a handy thing to know and see where your round is going. And APF SDS stands for Armor Piercing Fin Stabilized Discarding Sabot. It's a mouthful. You don't have to know what they all mean. You just have to know what generally they're used for and why they're used. So for this one, it is essentially merely an anti-tank round. Then underneath of that, the direction / point stabilized depends on the tank, but this is the kind of stabilization. So in this tank, we have direction stabilized. So if I, let's move out a little bit. You can see if I turn left and right, the barrel is still facing, in this case, forwards, or actually it looks like basically exactly west. So if I turn left and I turn right, it's going to look in the same direction. So point stabilization is with the M60. It's easiest to just show this if I zoom all the way out, or zoom all the way in to a target really far away. If I laze this target, okay, so this is 1,684 meters away. If I move to the right or to left, God, I'm kind of slow right now. If I just keep on driving this way, and the T-72 or direction stabilized in general, I would just be still aimed in this direction. With this tank, if I slow down and I zoom back in, I'm still looking at the target. So with point stabilization, you are looking not just in the same direction, but at the specific point you are still looking at when you laze the target. What it's actually doing is the point 1,684 meters away from you. When you move, it is doing a lot of complicated math to basically find, okay, how much have you changed in relation to this point this far away from you, and is compensating by rotating the gun a very, very small amount in this case, but just enough so it stays looking at that specific point. And under that, stabilizers on. This is what I commented earlier. If I toggle the stabilizers off, you can see stabilizers off. Toggle it again, stabilizers on. Then the last thing is 1,653 meters. That is the laze range. In this case, I'll do it right now. If I laze to this point, 1,624 meters. Now the T-72 has something specific called Delta D. This, you can see, it is in between stabilizers on and 0 meters in this case. It is currently disabled, but if I laze like this target, we're now at 325 meters, so it is that far away from me. Okay, so now if I look at it, or actually I don't even have to look at it, I'm going to look all the way over here. I'm not even looking at it, but we're in the same direction. But if I just go straight forward, I'm going straight towards it. This is important because if you pay attention to that number, I'll make it a little bit easier to see. I go forwards towards the target. You can see that range is now decreasing. It is decreasing proportional to how close I'm getting to that target. Now, In the grand scheme of things, that's really not important because a few meters of range in this game will really never matter. That only matters at the most absurd long ranges or specific targets, small things, whatever. You're not really going to ever need this, but you can see I've now half of the distance, so it's a little bit more important. But then again, I just constantly laze things, so it's not that useful for me. If you want, you can turn this off by doing left control and E, as the same thing as dumping the lead, which I got to earlier in the FCS system. You can see dump lead. This, I'm going to have to swap back to the M1. So if I laze this target 280 meters away, okay? So this thing is moving pretty fast, and is really close to me. So if I shoot this, if I'm not ahead of it, if I shoot it kind of like here, I just completely miss it. That's because I didn't lead the target. But it's still pretty dang hard to hit this target. I think I probably missed it there. Either way, if I look at it, so I'm just following right now, and I press E, it will now move the sight to the right side of the screen. Now if I start aiming to the right, you can see it's on the left side of the screen. It's basically lagging behind. If I move really fast, you can't even see it. What this is doing is it is creating an automatic lead. This is extremely powerful. Where is it? There it is. So if I now line this lagging behind thing up with it, so I'm now aiming with that target, not in the center of my screen, but in the center of this crosshair, I will now hit the target every single time. Now it's a little bit interesting just because the range is changing a little bit here. Especially if you're at a long distance, then the range is going to be a little bit hard to line up, because if I laze it again, it's going to kind of mess up the lead that I've created. But you just have to compensate with it a little bit. Just remember that this is going to aim to the point on the crosshair, not in the center of your screen. And if you let go of right click, it's back on the center, it's reset. Which again, this is why I don't think this keybind is exactly helpful or necessary. Especially this thing, the dump lead. I don't know how you get to that while you're aiming, but again, it's there. If you have a lead and you press left control and E, you will dump the lead, so you don't have to let go of your aiming button. You can just keep on aiming and dump your lead. So now the thermal / night vision is going to be controlled with T. If I press T right now, you can see it goes to a completely different sight. Now they did some pretty cool cosmetic changes in that it is not great quality. It used to be extremely easy to see things with this, but now it is clear why you would not want to always be in thermals. That is white hot, or kind of white hot. Everything is green, but if something is more white than something else, like you can see this thing, it's more white than its surroundings, it is hot. In this case, it is literally just a piece of wood. It's not going to be that hot, but it's supposed to emulate a target. So if we go all the way over here, if I press T, you can see the tanks are white hot. Now, white hot is a little bit more of a term for black and white thermals, but this case, it's the exact same thing basically. You can see it is so hard to identify what this thing I'm looking at is. I have no idea what it is. But if I press T, it is, well, it's a BMP. So if I zoom out, you can see you don't have a sight here. It's just kind of looking around. This is going to be mainly used for just, well, looking around, trying to find a target. It's so much easier to find targets with thermals and seeing this white blob in your vision than it is here with kind of camouflaged. But it is a lot easier to identify the target, see what it is specifically, if you want to shoot it, if you don't want to shoot it, what to shoot it with, that kind of thing, outside of thermals. Now, that's not exactly possible when you're in night game mode or something like that. You're going to have to always be in thermals, and that's a pain in the ass. Now you know why the flares are helpful, why using flares are helpful. But if I swap to something like the T-72, and I press T, what the hell just happened? It just went all black, I can't see anything. This is because the Russian tanks, or actually it's, in this case it's not technically Russian, they use a different form of other sight. Instead of night vision, or instead of thermal vision, it is night vision, and specifically just night vision. It's basically a specific camera or a specific lens to see night vision, and that night vision is with an IR spotlight, which you can see is that little thing, like circular thing next to the gun to the left of the gun. There's an IR spotlight that you're only going to be able to see at night. During night games, you're going to press T while you're in here. You're going to go to this thing, and then you're still not going to probably see anything, but you're going to press N, and then you're going to toggle your spotlight. Now that also means that the enemy will see your spotlight as well. So if they're also in some tank like a T-72 and they can see night vision, they're going to see your spotlight. It is literally going to be a spotlight from your tank, and you're not going to be hidden. So make sure you only use the spotlight when you absolutely need it, if the enemy can also see it. But if we go back to the normal view and I press I, it is going to illuminate the crosshair or reticle. Did not mean to do that. And it's just a little bit more contrast. You can see it easier, especially at night. So now we've gone past the main things. We're just going to go through some rapid fire random things. The commander aim is space. This is going to be specifically in the games, not this proving grounds. But if you hold down space after your commander calls out something, your gun will go directly to where he's looking. It's kind of a cheat, but sometimes you just have no idea where the hell the commander is calling out things. They should be specific to the location, but sometimes it just doesn't make sense. So if you hold down space after he calls it out, you will look where he's looking. You can mute the gun with single quotation mark. That is going to be, for me at least, to the left of enter. I press that. You can't hear it. You also won't be able to hear the crew. I don't know why you'd want to do that. You can take a screenshot with F11. To end the mission, you're going to press end. On the keyboard, you can press end, and there you go. We're now in the end mission view. Now, in this end mission view thing, you can see a lot of things. First of all, you can see a lot of stuff inside the tank. This is going to be basically anything you damage. You can hide this with O, and inside the game, like not inside this view specific end thing, if you press O, you'll also see the ammunition and where it is in the tank. But if you press hold, or if you hold W, hold S, you can move around this path. This is what this white line is the shot that you made. You can see a lot of information in the bottom center of the green text. You're going to see the shots. The 3 of 6 is going to be your third shot that you ever took in this game of however many total shots you made. You're going to see the shooter, who shot it. You're going to see the target, what you're trying to hit. In this case, I actually hit something. The distance that the round traveled, 1,722.2 meters. The ammo, that is the ammo that I shot. Then the time, that is not the time that it took to fly. It did not take 48 minutes to fly. That is how long into the mission that it took. Then A and D, that is going to be between the shots that you had, so you can cycle between them all. And then, as I said earlier, W and S is the ride shot path. Holding shift is going to be speeding up. Wow, that goes really fast. And then press Z, you're going to go to the shooter, press X, and you're going to go back to where you hit. After you hit something, you can see all of these red and yellow stuff. This is going to be shrapnel. So if you hit inside of a tank, you're going to see a lot of these lines bounce around inside of it. In this case, it just over-penetrated this piece of wood. So the white line continued. Otherwise, you'd probably see the white line end at the tank. If you hit a tank and you didn't penetrate it, it would just be a white line that abruptly ends. You're not going to see this. You're not going to see the shrapnel. Now you can also press F3, and that's going to go into the free cam. You can also do this inside the game mode. Really, all of these controls I'm going to say after this point, you can also do in the game modes. W, A, S, and D, moving around. If you press W and S, if you look down, you're not going to go upwards or downwards or something like that. Instead, you have to hold space and left control to go upwards and downwards respectively. Hold right click, and you're going to have this nice cinematic view. Very smooth. If you scroll with your scroll wheel, you can change the speed at which you fly at. Scroll down and go a lot slower. And you can also left shift and then scroll and zoom in a lot. And scroll out and you'll zoom out. Technically it's FOV. That's not really zooming out because now you've got, as Minecraft would say, Quake Pro. And then again, you can zoom in an absurd amount. But what if you're like screwed up and you're disoriented, you just want to get back to the normal zoom, press X and you're back. Going back into level, If you press O, you can see that's what I was talking about with the ammunition and the free cam and everything. You can still do that here. I'm going to press F3 to go back. But the reason why I went back into the level is because let's just aim at this target. But we're not just looking and admiring. We're going to press left shift and left click, and you can actually fire the currently selected gun from the tank. And the absolute last control is going to be left control and F1, and you just hide your HUD. That's it. It can technically break some things. As you can see, I press tab, and I just see my mouse. You probably don't see my mouse right now, but now I can't control what tank I'm going to. So I need to press left control and F1, and now I can see it again. So just, if you're like, where the hell did everything go, you probably hid your HUD. And that is the last control. There is no other control for me to say. If I managed to miss something or do something wrong, then absolutely correct me in the comments. Quite a few people did in that last video, and I do actually appreciate it because that made this video that much better. If you like this video, consider liking, consider subscribing if you want to see more of this content. I have quite a bit of other GHPC videos. I do actually really like this game. I seriously support it. I want to see it succeed. That's a lot of things starting with S, I'm realizing. Interesting bars. But either way, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. What that means is it used a laser to find the range of between me, where I am right now. Eventually I'll get my controls right. M-5 target. I guess that's what that called. We're going to press left control and left click. We're going to press left shift and left click.